Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. My name's Tracy, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this blanket that I've just finished. I haven't quite done it yet, I haven't made the border, but I'm saving that to the end of this video. So what I did was I chose 10 different colour schemes, and I made 3 lots of each one, so that gave me 2 rows of 5, make my first repeat, and then I repeated those and did 2 lots of each one and 2 lots of each one. So that gave me 30 squares altogether and 3 lots of each one. But obviously if you wanted to make this and you wanted to do all one colour scheme, then you could, or if you wanted to do just a couple of different colour schemes, then likewise you could, or anything is, you know, the world's your oyster really, basically. So around the outside I did a complete white one all the way around. So you don't have to do that, but I thought it'd finish it off nicely, and I used the slip stitch join, which I have done on a previous blanket, but I will do a separate tutorial for that as well as one for this video, because I've been asked to do that, and I think I might make a special playlist just for joins. So I'm going to show you how we made these then, and for that tutorial I'm going to just use these colours because that was my favourite square. Now I've used DK weight yarn, which is a 3 weight in the US, and all of these except for these 2, all of the colours that I've chosen for this blanket were all Deramores Baby, and they're baby DK. They are absolutely lovely and soft. You can use any DK weight yarn, or if you want to use a 4 weight or any other yarn, then just to adjust your hook size, really, that, and it will just make a larger blanket, and that's no problem. I always find it's better to make a larger blanket than one that isn't. So I have a collection of leftover squares which I've been making because I'm going to make myself a cushion for my new yarn room, which this is the very first tutorial that will be filmed in the new yarn room. So I'm got a few here already, and I'm going to make one with this. I'm just going to pause the video while I clear everything out the way, and I'll come back to you and show you how it's done. Okay, so for this tutorial you're going to need a crochet hook, and I've got a 4mm darning needle and a pair of scissors and my 3 yarns. So if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. You'll be informed when there's new videos, which there will be lots of them coming. Now I have a special place to make my tutorials, so I'm just going to pull out some yarn. Now this is actually quite thin. This is one of the thinner DKs that I've worked with, so you know, that's why I've got quite a small crochet hook. So I'm just going to do a slip knot, and I'm going to make 4 chain. So that's yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through. So I've got my 4, and I'm going to make a ring by inserting my hook into the very first chain, and then yarn over and pull through both. So now I've got this little ring which will grow considerably once we start working in it. So if I just get one of these, you can see that we start off with these kind of spokes, and how we're going to do that, for the first stitch, sorry, I was a bit confused there, is to chain 2, and I'm going to do another 11 stitches into the center of the ring. So this is going to class as my first stitch, which in the UK is a treble crochet, but in the US is a double crochet. So I'm just going to yarn over, go into the center of the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the first 2, second 2, yarn over, back into the center of the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we've got 3, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So as you can see, we've now got what looks like 3 stitches, because our first 2 chain count as our first stitch. So we've got 3 and I need 12 altogether. So I'm just going to carry on, and so I'll make sure I've got 11 of these treble crochet or double crochet in the US and my 2 chain. So just repeat what I was doing. So yarn over into the center of the loop. I'm working over this tail as I go because it keeps it nice and neat. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. If you're a beginner and you find that confusing, you can always sew it in at the end, but I find it easy just to work over it. So I'm going to carry on until I have 12 stitches, including those 2 at the beginning, those 2 chain. So I'm going to pause the video, and if at any time I go faster and go ahead of you, then just pause the video yourself and catch up with me. So I'm going to carry on now until I've got my 12th stitch, and I'll come back to you. Okay, so now I have my 12 stitches, which does include these 2 chain, and I'm going to complete the ring by just slip stitching into the top of my 2 chains. So there's the first one, that was the first chain I did, and that's the second one. So I'm just going to slip stitch into there, and because I'm going to change colour, I'm just going to end off, leave a nice long tail for sewing in. And all I'm going to do is do a stitch. Before I pull it through, I'm just going to cinch it down by pulling, and then pull my yarn out. So I've ended off and I've got my little ring. So I'm just going to move this colour out of the way for a moment and bring in my yellow. Just find the end of the yellow. It's a bit tangled, sorry. There we go. So I'm just going to get some yarn, put it the other side so it doesn't tangle up. Alright, and bear with me a second, just need to pause the video a second. Hi, I'm back. Sorry about that. It was so hot. I just had to wipe my face because it's just really, really hot in here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do this row here. So we're going to attach it in between any of our stitches, but I always do it on the opposite side to this so that I can work over those tails as much as possible. So I'm just going to go in between those stitches, and I'm going to bring in my new colour. I'm just going to bring in a loop like that. So to start off, I'm just going to chain by going over using both ends. So that's my tail end and my working yarn. I'm just going to drop that tail. Now this I do this for my first stitch, and it doesn't matter about having the extra loop. So now I'm going to make I'm going to treble 3 together. Let's do this. So I'm going to do 1, pull up my loop as normal, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2. I'm going to yarn over and go back in, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Just bear with me a second, it's getting stuck on my yarn. Yarn over, go back in, pull up my loop, yarn over and go through 2. And now I'm going to yarn over and pull through all of my loops on the hook, do a chain to secure that, and 1 extra chain to make the gap. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing in the very next stitch. So I'm going to yarn over as if I'm making a normal treble crochet, but yarn over and pull through 2. When I say treble, that's obviously the UK treble and US double. So I'm going to yarn over, go back in the same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 only. If I can find the 2, that is. That's it. And then do it again. Same stitch, yarn over, pull through 2. So now I've got my 4 stitches, yarn over, pull through all 4, do a chain to secure it, and 1 extra chain for my space. Now I'm going to pull out some more yarn because I'm getting a bit, I don't know where it's gone. It's actually gone under my light. Never mind. So we'll do that one more time into the next stitch. So you just see in between the stitches, yarn over, go in, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, go back in, yarn over and pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're going to do that one more time without leaning on the yarn again. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through 4 of those. Of course, remember, the only time you have more loops is on that first one because of the way that I join my yarn. You don't have to join it that way, it's just the way I do it, but you don't have to do that. So I'm going to repeat that in every single stitch around. I'll show you one more time. So it's yarn over into between the next 2, yarn over, pull up a loop, go through 2, yarn over, go back in, pull up the loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go back in, and then we go through the last 2, yarn over, pull through all of them, a chain to secure it, and 1 for the gap. So now we're making a little space in between them all. So just carry on all the way round exactly the same as I have until you get back to the start, and I'll show you what we do next. I'm just going to pause the video. If you don't remember how to do that, just go back a step and watch it again, but otherwise I'm going to pause it now and I shall catch up with you when I get back to the start. Again, so I'm back onto my very last stitch, and I'll just do the same as before in between those 2 last ones. My 2 chain, and now I'm going to make a slip stitch into this one here, which does look a little bit baggy compared to the others. Now again, I'm changing yarn, so I'm just going to end off. Nice long tail, and I'm finished with that yellow. So remember, I just do a chain, pull it right down and pull my yarn through. So now I've got my little ring, and we've made this section here. Looks a little bit different because obviously when you do this in between, it pulls it apart a little bit more. So let's remove, I'm just going to pause the video a second while I change my yarn back over. Okay, so now this particular round, we're making a corner, but we're making it with our treble 3s together. So how I do that is, now I'm going to, what I should have done, and I can still do it, just before I end off, I normally slip stitch into this gap. It's no problem, and then just cinch it down and end off. Makes no difference, but no real difference, but you know, it helps me to go over that yarn. So this is one of my corners, and if you look at our corner, we've got 2 single ones between the corner, so that's going to be a corner. So that's 1 single, 2 single, so this is a corner. I'm going to join my yarn here. So I'm going to do that in exactly the same way as before. Bring a loop through and do my first chain with both ends with my working yarn, and just going to bring this, sorry about that, I just want to bring my yarn over because it's quite difficult to work with it over that side. Okay, so now we're going to do our first cluster in exactly the same way as before. They're exactly the same. I think I've moved my camera, and go through them all, and we're going to do 2 chain, then we're going to do another one in exactly the same place, working over the tail. Don't worry if it looks a little congested at first, it all works out. And then we're going to do our second one, and now we've got a corner. So in this next one we're just going to do a single one, his yarn's pulling, just going to pull some out. I don't know where it's gone. Get caught up in my own yarn. I think it's because I've got a fan going is not helping the yarn situation. That's it. Right, I don't know where it's gone. I think it's gone under my stool. Never worked with children and yarn. Okay, so I've done my first single. Now I'm going to do another single one into the next one. Now I'm going to do another corner into this one. Now I only made that look like that because I kind of didn't remember to slip stitch, but it wouldn't normally look like that. But it will just hide, don't worry about that. So here we go, I'm making my next corner exactly the same as the first one by doing 2 in that next space. And then I'm going to do 2 singles just as before. You can sew the ends in properly afterwards. I usually end up pulling them out and sewing them better than that, but sometimes they look okay once you've gone over them. So this is how it's looking. Got a corner, 2 singles, another corner. So now we've got 2 singles and we're back to the corner. Definitely having some trouble with the fan blowing the yarn, but honestly could not function without the fan. We've had a huge rainstorm today, but still not cooled it down. Cooled it down a little bit, but not enough. So I'm just going to show you now. It's starting to take on a square shape. So I'm going to carry on all the way around until I get back to the start. So making, now I've done a corner, I will do 2 singles, then a corner, then my 2 singles, and I'm going to pause the video then and catch up with you when I get back to this start. Okay, so I've made it all the way back and I'm on my very last one. A 2 chain, then I'm going to slip stitch into this big elongated kind of baggy stitch and end off this colour because I'm changing yarns, and sometimes I'll end off and work over my yarn. Whoopsie, nearly forgot. So I'm just going to slip stitch into that corner before I end off. So there we are. We've now, it's still kind of a round shape, but that's fine, and it does kind of sometimes maintain a little bit of a round, like a square round if you like, but you can see it's taken on a square shape now. So I'm just going to move this yarn out the way and change my colour to the white. So I'm just going to pause the video while I collect this yarn. Okay, so I have my white, and like before I'm going to do this at the opposite end so that I can work over the corner a little bit with each of those yarns. So I'm going to do my first one with my working yarn and tail yarn and drop my tail, but this time I'm going to do something a bit different. So that's my first chain. I'm going to do one more, so I've got 2 chain, and now I'm going to do my corner the same way as I would a granny square. It helps to keep it more in a square. So I'm going to do 3 treble crochet, which so obviously the 2 chain will count as the first one, and that's a double crochet in the US, 1 chain, and then 3 in the same corner. So that's my 2 chain. Let's grab my yarn, and now I'm going to work over the tail, and I'm going to do 2 UK treble crochets, US doubles, to make a traditional corner. 1 chain, I'm going to pull it over slightly because it was taking up all the space, and I'm going to do 3 more in the same corner. Now I'm going to do 1 chain, and now I'm going to start making my clusters, my treble 3s together, exactly the same as before. It does mean that it does stay a little bit of a round edge, but it works out. This time you've got 3 along your sides. We had 2 in the last round, but now we have, when we get to the corner, this next one, I'm going to do something a little different. So there's my 2 chain. Now I'm going to do my treble 3 together, or double 3 together, and I'm going to do 1 chain only. Now I'm going to make my corner with my 3 UK treble US doubles going over that tail. Helps when I come to sew it in. 1 chain, 3 in the same space, and because we've done a different stitch, we're going to chain 1 in between our little clusters here. We'll do 2 chain, but when it comes to this corner, the one before it and the one after it is just 1 chain, and then we'll carry on and do our 3 treble 3s together, or double 3 together, depending on which you follow. So it's slightly different this round. 1 more to do. So at the end of this one, we'd just do the 1 chain to secure it, but we don't need 2 chain in between. So 1 chain, now back to the corner. One in between. Just 1 chain, and now I'm going to repeat that all the way round. So I'm going to now make my 3 in my side, 1 chain in between my corner, and 1 chain after my corner, and then my 3. And when I get to this point, I'm just going to do the 1 chain as well. So I might stay with you, don't need to pause the video this time, I don't think, because it's really not a great deal left, and it is slightly different, so I think it'd be better to stick with you. I'm going to pull some yarn out. Used up what I had. Yeah. One more left. because it's the last one, just one chain, and then our corner, and yarn getting caught up. I don't know why, I always seem to have that problem. Tries to work its way under my elbow. I'm sure other YouTubers don't have these problems, it's just me. So then we do our last 3. Nearly there. And my last one now. One chain, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of our second chain. So there's one, and there's the second one. Now you can go in to that if you want, or you can just go in like this. It really doesn't matter. And I'm going to end that colour. So that's the end of that square. So as usual, I just do my one chain, cinch it right down and pull it through. And there we are, there's the square. And I will then go on to make as many as you need in whatever colour schemes you've chosen, or if you're going to just do one, that's fine. Just make sure you've got enough. But as I said, with my particular blanket, I had 30 of my coloured. I didn't count my ones around the outside, but I had 2 lots of 8 and 2 lots of 4. 24. So yes, and then once you've got enough, I will then join them together, and I'll show you how I've joined mine together. I dropped my white, so just bear with me while I collect my bits that I need. Okay, so I won't use that one because they're 2 with yellow, and I did try and keep those apart on my previous. So I'm going to secure these 2 together. So I'm going to get my crochet hook, and I'm going to find my corner, and I'm going to just insert my hook through into that through the 2 loops like this. I hate it when people say like so I never do. So what you need to do is to make sure that both of the right sides are back to back. So there's your right side, and there's your other right side, your corresponding one. So now I'm going to show you on this edge because it's cleaner. There's no no end. So I want this one in between, which is there. So I'm going to put my hook through there. So we're starting at the same point, and I'm just going to pull a loop through. I'm going to leave a nice long tail because that needs securing at the end of this. We're not working over it in any way. So what we're going to do is just go into the next stitch, which is this one here, and on the other one here, this is the other side, we're going to go into the corresponding first stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through the loop that's on the hook. Don't make it tight, keep it nice and loose. Go into the next one, and you want to go through the 2 loops and find the next one, which is here. If you're looking at them yourself, you find it much easier. So you pull through it and pull through the loop on your hook. It's easier when you're doing it for yourself. So you just go through again both loops and yarn over and pull through this one. Now when I came to the gaps, I just went through the gap and did a slip stitch. Now with this one, I just pushed through, make sure that I went through both loops, and then into the next gap like that. So making sure I'm going through both each time. Again, through both loops, and then both gaps. Again, leaning on my yarn again. It hates me, it really does. So anyway, back through the loop, through the gap. So now we're at the corner again. So we make sure we go into the corresponding ones on each side. It's very important you do that or it will be wonky. And we don't want it wonky. And into the last one. Last of the stitches anyway. So now I'm going to go into this chain. Now when you're doing it the other side, you still go into that chain. It's what keeps the corner nice and tight. So through there and do the same slip stitch. Don't make it tight though. Going to cut off a nice long tail. You do get quite a bit of ends doing it this way, but I must admit I do like the ridge. If I show you on the blanket, I love this ridge. So sewing all those ends in is worth it to me. Now I'll show you what I'll do when I get to the end. I will get my last stitch, which one I'm through, and I'm going to go through the back loop only, just one. So that's the stitch that I've just gone through, the last one I've gone through. There we are. You see it? I'm going to go through the back loop only, and I'm going to pull that loop through. I'm holding on to my tail and I'm going to pull it through. Now I'm going to find this side. You don't have to do this, but I find it makes it cleaner, and I'm going to pull it through like this. So now that is on the reverse side. I've pulled it through. So I'm going to do my ending off same way as normal, and I can sew that in. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit baggy, because I can sew it in and you're not going to see it. And this side, when you sew this in, you really need to pull it through the other side, obviously not through the same part of the stitch you're in, and really secure it, because we've not attached it to anything. So I usually do a little over sew of a knot. I'll show you exactly what I mean. I'll start with this end. It's really difficult doing it through a phone. It's so much easier with the naked eye. I don't even think I can see it. There we are. Oops, don't want to split that. So what I'll do is, because the yarn is on this side, remove that tail out of the way because it's confusing. I don't want to go through the same part of the stitch that I've already gone through. So I'll just go through there, taking it through the back, and then I'll turn it over and I will make a stitch, and I'll go through it. Go through it and pull it tight. So I've made a little knot, and then I'll just work it down through my stitch like this till I get to this part here, and I'll force it through, and then I'll just work it. I didn't go all the way through, so I'll make sure it does, and I'll just work it through the back. See, I'm on the reverse side, and I will work it through a couple of times just to secure that end. So it's got a little knot that we've made, and it's going back and forth 2 or 3 times to make sure it's extra secure and not going to be coming undone at all. I'll do it one more time. So I'll go back through this bit. Don't have to go all the way through, doesn't matter. And then I just end that off. Cut that. And that one you can just filter it through exactly the same way and go round it, because this one is nice and secure. That one, I just wanted to show you that one because it wasn't. So that's how I attach them. So what I do is I will do a line of my 5, and then my corresponding line of 5, and then I do it this way. So I would have, these would be attached and these would be attached, so I'd have like a big long line of 5 each side, say for instance like this, and then I would just get my crochet hook and I will slip stitch along, and when I get to the join, when I get to the corner, I go into this one and slip stitch, and then the next one I go in is this one, so they're exactly, see there's the chain in between, so I make sure I slip stitch through these, and then I slip stitch this chain with the corresponding one that side, and then I just leap over and go into the corresponding chain this side, and then into the 3. So I make sure it's ultra secure at that point, otherwise we get a gap, we'll get like a hole. So I'll do my strips by just doing it like this, and I always sew it in as I go, because otherwise you get many ends at the end, and that's one thing I really hate, is leaving all my ends to sew in until the end. But I'll just do them as I go, and I make sure that I've sewn all of these ends in before I start to join a square. That way I don't have abundance of ends. I just do them as I go. So yeah, I will, as I said before, I'll just recap. I make my whole strip of one colourway, and then the whole strip of the next one, and then once I've got all of them in a row, I will then join them in the length, and I'll see if I can show you on the blanket what I mean. So these ends are the kind of the repeats, so this is the whole of the colours. So what I do is I've attached all this row, and then I attached all this row, and then I went all the way along, obviously this ends because I'm right handed, but I went all the way along and went over each of these because they were already secured, and I went all the way to the end, and that way it keeps it nice and straight. I find if in the past when I've done a blanket I might have done it like that, but it does get a little bit bitty in the corners, but this way it didn't. And I did that as well with my white rose. But I love this little join. You can join it any way you like, but I do like the ridge, and I think sometimes it looks really good on a blanket, other times not. So that's all I did to get to that stage. The next thing to do is my border. I'll do a separate tutorial for that. I don't think you can just do a plain one if you wanted to, but I'm just going to do a little border, but I think it would be an ultra long video if I carried on now. So I'm going to say goodbye for now, and thank you for watching. There's also a left-handed tutorial which I will bring out at the same time, and there'll be links from one to the other, so if you find yourself in the left-handed tutorial, there's a link that takes you to the right-handed. Thanks for watching. Stay safe everyone. Bye for now.